Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you how to summarize large amounts of data using pivot tables. In this particular video, I'm going to use pivot tables functionality from Pandas Python package. Let's take a quick look at this sales data here. The sales data here contains the date, color, region, units, and the sales of a particular product. And let's say we want to answer questions like, what are the total sales for color red? What are the total units sold for color red region wise? And let's say we also want to generate a consolidated yearly report to share with the manager. And if you look at all these questions are summarizing your data, and you don't want to use all the information, but you want to consolidate the information and communicate the summarized information to others. So let's take a quick look at what pivot tables are. So pivot table is a data summarization tool that is used in data processing. Pivot tables are used to summarize, sort, reorganize, group, count, total, or average data. It allows you to transform columns into rows and rows into columns. Group data by any data column. So pivot tables are the perfect solution when you need to summarize and analyze large amounts of data. Okay, let's quickly jump into the code. So here I'm using Jupyter notebooks. So let's quickly run these. I'm importing the pandas version. I'm using the latest pandas version 1.1.3, and I have the sample data in sample.xlsx. So let's quickly read that sample data into memory. So here you can actually see I have like 452 rows and 5 columns, and now we want to summarize this whole data to answer the questions above. Before going there, let's take a quick look at what pandas documentation has to say about pivot table. So if you look at the documentation for the pivot table actually takes the data, the values, index, columns, aggregation function, so on and so forth. And what I'm going to do here was like I'm going to pop this documentation into a separate page, and let's take a quick look at what pivot tables are and how you can use it. So columns keys to group by on the pivot table column, index keys to group by on the pivot table index. Aggregation function is the way we aggregate the data. So let's quickly jump right into the code. So what are the total sales for color red? So color summary equals to pd.pivot table, and my data is in sample underscore data. So that's the first argument. Then the second argument, values. So values is columns of group. So here I want to aggregate based on sales. So let's put sales here, and let's say I want, because I want to get the color red, the group the data by color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give index as color here. Let's try to print the color summary here. So if we look at here, we're actually getting the color which is actually averaged out, but we want to actually the total of the sales. So we can use this aggregate function and we can pass in something like this sum. And now here we have the total sales for each of the color across all the regions for the given data. And we can easily index into this particular summary table to get the total sales for color red. And let's take a look at the second question. What are the total units sold for color red region wise? So instead of, so here we want not just the total units but also group them based on the region as well. So let's create a variable region summary, pd.pivot table. The first argument is as usual the sample data, then values. I want to summarize units, so here I will be saying units. Then my index is, I want the color as in my index. Then I have columns. I want the region column to be the group by. Then I have the aggregation function as Let's quickly print this region summary. Yeah, so here we can actually see the total units for each of the color region wise. Now let's take a look at the last question, generating the consolidated yearly report. Because we want to generate the consolidated yearly report, we want to add a new column to our data frame year. So I'm going to add a new column here, and here in my sample data I have a column called date. So I'm going to extract the year from the date column like so. And let's take a quick look at how the sample data will look like now that I have added the year. So we can actually see like we have added new column year, uh, which just contains the year part of it. So now let's create the report. So I have pd dot pivot table. The first argument is as usual the sample data. Then the index is, let's say I want to index based on the column color. Then my values I want to, let's say, generate the sales values. So I'm going to go to sales and my columns. Now I want to group columns based on both year as well as region. Then let's say I want to aggregate using sum, and let's print this out. Okay, so now we have the consolidated table with year wise, with year and region, and index wise with the color. And let's say we want the margins, so we can actually let's take a quick look at the documentation. So we have something called margins, which is set to false by default, and here it says add all rows or columns for subtotal or grand totals. So let's say margins equals to 3 and see how it looks like. Yeah, now we can see we have like the total columns for each subtotals and the grand totals. So this is how we can use pivot tables to quickly summarize your data. And this is a cheat sheet which I usually follow to remember the functionality of the pivot table. Let's say we have this table here and we want to summarize it. So the index will actually, whatever columns we specify in the index, they will become the index in the pivot table, and whatever columns we specify in the columns, they will become the columns. And the aggregation function is used to aggregate the columns specified in the values entry. And if we have like values or missing values, the fill value will actually fill those missing values, and the margins will give the grand totals, and the drop NA will drop the columns which are like completely empty. That's all for now. Thank you.